Folks, strip day Sunday, firearms today. Ruger Precision Rimfire. We're chambered 1.7 HMR in this puppy. Nice guns. If you need to strip it completely, this should help, hopefully. Tools. Don't need many. There's not many scary things about stripping them either. We've got a 3/16 Allen, we've got an 1/8 Allen, T10 Torx. I've got the T10 Torx in a holder, and you'll see why in a minute. Small hammer. Not much else, to be honest, depending on how far you want to go. Because if you want to go all the whole hog, you're going to need a big hammer, and you're going to need some form of vice to hold your receiver. So let's do it. First thing I do, obviously there's no bolt in the gun, there's no mag in the gun. Chambers empty, the gun's safe. So we've covered all that. Grip. Pop the grip off. Pretty long screw in there, or bolt. Place that down. Next, I'm going to get my 1/8 Allen and 2 bolts, forward of the trigger unit, rear of the chamber. Just pop them out. Surprising how easy these Rugers are to take to bits, to be honest. At this point, I'm just going to turn it over. Nothing's going to fall off. There's a piece of plastic here. I'm literally just going to, sort of can't show you both sides because I'm not a magician, but I'm going to take it and just gently open it up and remove it. Yeah, put that to one side. To take the receiver off, the lower off, terminology, dickhead. You need to make sure, if you have it in the safe position, it'll come off. If you have it in the fire position, it won't come off, because your safety will be across. Dunk. If I can do this by hand, can you see that? This little bar will be grabbing hold of your safety catch, and you won't be able to take it off. Now the trigger at this point is held in by this little detent here, and a sprung catch, and there's 2 parts that I'm going to grab hold of, and I'm going to push them down like so. Get focus, and I'm going to move that upwards to release tension on this part. Are we getting focus? We are. At which point I can take either of my Allen keys, line that up, and I'm going to push on that retainer. Now I usually do this in a vise, but for the filming this is easier. It's just going to end up there, and just push your trigger unit back and out it comes. Replacing it's going to be exactly the same. You're going to push it in, forward, but then you need to remember to push this plunger back down, or this pin, and locate it in the little neck. You've got to do that. Don't forget to do that. Now, fore end. I lied. Terrible, terrible liar. It is Sunday. 9/64, 2 Allen bolts. Ram off. Take them all the way out, and your barrel will just slide out. So for the majority of the cleaning that you need to do, that's far enough, isn't it? Really. But let's go further. It's a laugh. I'm going to use the vice on this next bit because it's a helpful tip. Zoom out of it. If you want to take your sight rail off, these pesky little torques, it can be tight. Now the reason I've got this in a holder with the T10 is because I'm going to tap them. Not violently, just give them a tap, and that tends to release the little bit of Loctite that Ruger have put in there. So I'll tap it, but I'm not going to take the thing out now because the torques is jammed on the end of my head. So I'm just going to loosen that one on the same way. So I'm going to just do the same with that one. Remember to use soft jaws in your vice, by the way. Loosen that, wiggle that back out of the bolt, and again. What I've seen happen in the past with these is when people have tried to get them out with a cheap, nasty Torx bit or an unsuitable tool, the head, they're that tight, the head of your bit can snap off in the stud. Then you're in a world of pain, because you've got a blind bolt holding your pick rail on. So they're all loose now. I could just move in by hand and remove. So that's my sight rail off. 0 MOA on these puppies. Now, on the bigger guns, on the section 1s, the bolt release is in a blind hole, so I get them off by holding the receiver upside down, just wiggling it, and the pin drops out because the pin's loose. Obviously with it being a blind hole, it can't come out downwards because there's nowhere to push it. I'm going to take, because I lied again about the tills, because I need a 5/64, and I'm using a roll pin. I don't know whether you can see that on the vid, but there's basically a ball on the end of the punch, because this this is a roll pin. It's hollow or split pin. I'm not awake yet with all this terminology, am I? Take that out. Now this is the first little piece that you could lose, because behind your bolt release there's a tiny little spring. Pesky little varmint in there, so don't lose that. And then if I'm working on the gun, what I often do is I'll have a little bag separately to put that and that in, and some of the bits that I'm going to take from the lower. Now this part in your lower, yeah, you just pull it out. Be careful at this point, because the pin through the bottom of it is a very loose pin. You can literally put it on the table, the pin will drop out, and then you're rebuilding that, which is a bit of a pain in the arse. So just put it to one side. If you are coating your gun, or planning on changing the colour of your chassis, there's a little Allen key in there for your trigger adjustment. That's basically slotted pretty stiffly into the back of it, and they are a bit of a pig to get out. It's not something I want to do in the freezing cold. So that's your toolkit. That's good, that. Now the back end, obviously on the Precision Rimfires, these are adjustable in, out, up, down. So to get your cheek piece off, just undo, lever there, and then completely remove that screw. That screw's cut out on the base, so that's the way it has to go on. And then you've got your clamp that stops it going up and down. Now at this point you should be able to, your cheek piece, I find it easier to take that out, take the spring out, take the other side out, put the spring back on, put that back on, place that back on in the way that you took it off, and then screw it back up. So there'll be times I'll be maybe stripping 20 or 30 of these at a time, so I just like to keep those bits all together. Speeds things up for the rebuild too. If you're forgetful, you can't remember how it went together, and then your back end just slides out. So that's the whole gun nearly disassembled. Safety catch. Can you see inside there? There's a spring, which you'll see in a minute. So basically, how am I going to do this? Little tiny spring. So I'm going to put my finger in there. I'm going to get my fingernail and push down on that spring, at which point the safety catch will come out, and then gently let that tension come off that, and out comes the spring I was talking about. And don't lose that, because you're buggered without it. So that's the gun completely stripped for cleaning, or whatever else you want to do with it, to be honest. Now the barrel. We obviously have a hex nut holding the barrel on. So it's not that hard to remove it. No shock horror, please. But I have here, generally I'll use a 10-ton standing press for this. But the workshop's a shithole, so I'm not going to show you that. But you need a good vise. Very good vise. Now if you're planning on coating the gun, obviously this one's in for coating, so I'm not too bothered about the aluminium. Just putting a registration mark on the receiver, because that just blasts away. The tip is, this is Mercer Abronette base cut abrasive paper. It's designed for the Velcro pads, so the back of it's the opposite of the Velcro, and it's brilliant for wrapping around barrels and receivers to stop you scratching them. But put the felt side in because if you put the sandpaper side in, don't blame me. Now, in the clamp, I'm going to grab this. I'm obviously not going to grab it here because there's a good chance we could crush it, and I don't really want to do that. If you haven't got access to a barrel or receiver vise, then you could fashion a piece of oak or a piece of really strong wood, bore a hole out the centre of it, cut it in half and use that in your vise. But the trick is with removing any kind of barrel on a firearm or any kind of tight nut and bolt, is that this has got no movement. There's no give, no play when you start to loosen them at all. So at this point I will get a I will take a good quality, unless you've got the right size wrench, I'm going to take a good quality movie with flat jaws, and I'm going to make sure that I'm using it correctly, which is, let me just move the camera. You're working downwards. You want your top of your spanner facing upwards, because I've seen them used like that, and upside down they start to flex outwards. So the correct way of using a movie or an adjustable spanner, put it on, top of it facing upwards or against the force you're going to put, the direction of the force you're going to push. Chances are you're not going to be able to grab hold of that, no matter how many vials of testosterone you've injected in the morning, and undo it, because what you've done, you've got flex in your arm, and these a lot of time they can rely on shock to move them. So I've got a big fuck off hammer, and I'm not going to run across the workshop and take a run up. I'm just going to hit it, at which point you can just by hand, usually once you've cracked it off, remove the barrel nut. Take the thread cap off and the barrel nut won't come off. Now, as you can see, you don't have to worry about edge space on these little precisions, because you're basically you're butting it up and then you're tightening it up. The edge space isn't affected by barrel removal and refitting. The extraction channel has to run, so you get your barrel the right way up, and it runs in to a pin that's fixed in there. Yeah, now it's a good one to know, because I saw some idiot grab the barrel and using an action wrench trying to turn the action against the barrel, because he didn't realise that was a nut, even though it had a hex cut on it, and he destroyed it because he basically forced that retaining pin around the tenon of the barrel and knackered it. So that's it. That's a Ruger Precision rifle, completely stripped. I hope some of you found that useful, and I might also make a suggestion that on rebuilding them, a small amount of tube seal or bearing seal is used in here and on this, because I have seen them with a fair bit of movement in them, no matter how tight you put them. But if that's unnecessary, then do feel free to tell me I'm wrong in the comments. That's it. Pretty boring one today, wasn't it? Bye.